Hi, it's Brian Larson again. I'm so excited to conclude my talk on individual contributors moving from subject matter experts to superstars and how you can accomplish that. In my first talk, I covered the subjective bar of excellence, how your best is not everyone else's best, but you need to bring it every day. In the second, I talked about elevating yourself, your team, your boss, your department, and your company by asking, not by telling, by asking. And I encourage you to be the change. Change is inevitable, and when it comes, you should be the enthusiastic one, not the naysayer who worries about what it's going to affect and how it's going to be a problem and what it's going to do to your workload and how it's going to change things. Embrace the change. How can you facilitate it? That's how you get to where you are now. That's how you get to that cusp from subject matter expert to superstar. One thing I tell subject matter experts that I often put a young talent, the subject matter expert, into a meeting without me to represent our department or on an issue, cross-functional team meeting with different departments, even with senior leaders, to help them grow as employees. But I warn them. I tell them two things are going to happen to you. You attend enough of these meetings, it'll probably happen in the first one or two, but you're going to sit around a table and we're going to be talking about a subject, talking about a topic and what's happening, and you're going to have a realization. It's going to dawn on you that you know more about that thing than everyone in the room. And at that moment, you need to figure out how to get your voice heard, speak up with your subject matter expertise in a way that other people will hear you. Again, asking is a good strategy, but that can be a little daunting to realize, oh, they're talking about this thing and they don't really understand it. It actually has this other component to it, and there's this other thing that keeps it the way it is or it hinders us from moving forward in this way. You have to share your expertise in a way that other people can hear you. The second is, I find it's a common occurrence where people who are strong individual contributors tend to sort of not think about the longer term, the strategy. And so they have this idea that there's a grand plan and that they're just not aware of it. It's being doled out to them on a need to know basis, and they didn't need to know up till now. And so there's this great plan that now they're going to get plugged into the plan and they can make it better and they can really be a good contributor. And they're going to find out that there isn't a plan, not in the way you think there is. There are strategic targets, there are goals, there are ways that leaders are trying to move a company forward. They need you to make the plan. And that's exciting. It's intimidating at first, but boy, is it exciting to be able to contribute to a plan. So that's what's going to happen to you as a subject matter expert who starts to move into that superstar space. You're going to need to get your voice heard in a way that people can hear you and understand you without telling them what to do, again, by asking. Good strategy. The other is that there isn't a plan. You're going to make the plan. And that should be exciting to you. So be aware of that. Be ready for that. As you're doing that, your focus needs to change. We talked earlier in the 5 levels of engagement about execution, operation, strategy, vision, mission. You need to be looking at strategy. Execution, you're still doing your daily job. Operations, you're making your unit, your daily job better, finding ways to make it more efficient. But now, as a subject matter expert, you get to impact the strategy. And the sooner you start thinking that way, the sooner people will recognize you as someone who thinks that way. It's a little bit of a tautology in that way. One of the keys to that is not sweating the small stuff. That's point number 1. Do not sweat the small stuff. What your urgency is that day isn't anyone else's urgency. Worrying about what happens today and tomorrow doesn't get you to the place where you're a superstar. You need to be worried in a strategy sense about next week and next month, and maybe even the rest of the quarter, and maybe starting to think about next quarter. When you start to think that way, still daily executing on your daily tasks, but thinking strategically long-term, people recognize that in you. There's a lot of ways to say that, I guess. One of the ways, like if you've ever seen the movie Training Day, there's a scene where Denzel Washington says to Ethan Hawke, he says, "This is chess, not checkers." And it didn't work out so well for Denzel Washington if you see the movie, but he's right. Chess players thinking 4, 7. The masters are thinking 12, 20 moves ahead. They have it all in their head. They're thinking well ahead of what's happening on the board in front of them. That's what I mean about don't sweat the small stuff. That's what I mean about thinking strategically. You're not just answering emails or building slide decks and daily execution stuff, you need to be thinking 4, 5, 6, 7 steps ahead. And I want to be careful here because it's not Machiavellian. You're not trying to manipulate anybody into anything. You're trying to bring your best self, your expertise, to the benefit of the company. And a way to think about it is this. You need to believe that 99.9% of everybody you work with has the same intention for today. They want to come to work, have a good day at work, where they make progress against their goals and get recognition for it. There isn't some subtext in which people are sabotaging other people and causing other people problems. It does happen, but it's so rare. Ignorance over malice. People are trying to get the same thing out of the workday as you are. And so when you're thinking chess, not checkers, and you're trying to think 4 or 5 steps ahead, if I say this, that's going to get people to think that, and then I can build on that to get them to see a bigger picture in this space. It's not Machiavellian. You're not trying to control people. You're not trying to manipulate an outcome. You're trying to strategically think of how to get from point A to point B and bring others with you. And that's it. You can accomplish that. You have moved from subject matter expert to superstar. And you're going to see people want to include you in things, want to make you a representation for your department in things, want to give you promotions and move you ahead. So that's it. Part 3. It's complicated, but in a way it's pretty simple. Bring your best. Be an agent of change. Ask questions. Don't sweat the small stuff. Think strategically. It's chess, not checkers. You've got this. I'm going to pick up on a different topic next week. I'm excited to bring that to you. But for now, have a great week, everybody. I thank you for coming to see these talks. I thank you for coming to larsonbridge.com and booking time with me. I've had so many great conversations with all of you. Look forward to talking to you next week. Until then, take care.